Well, you talk about the arrow pointing up, but let's have the arrow point west, as that is the journey that Nneka Ejere made 16 years ago when the pharmacist immigrated from Nigeria to America to eventually end up playing Survivor years later.
Okay. All right. So, what else you want to set up about NECA?
Nneka is 43 years old and she is from Weatherford, Texas. So, yeah, Nneka's going to get into a bit of her own backstory, how she got into the show. She is a bit of a late convert, but as we say, better late than never when it comes to getting into Survivor.
That's right. That's right. Okay. All right. Are we ready to hit play on NECA?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Why are you here on Survivor?
I'm here on Survivor because it's literally a bucket list item and a dream come true. But it was as a result of getting all into the show during the lockdown period and becoming an acute super fan of the show. And when auditions opened, I sent in a video, and it was more to not just, convince myself that I can do the hard things, but to be able to put myself in a place where it feels like everything's out of my control and to see how well I thrive.
What's your history with watching Survivor?
So we started watching Survivor during the lockdown. My daughter started on the show and got the whole family into it. So it became a thing that really bonded us during the lockdown period because we will sit and watch episodes and seasons upon seasons. And my whole family ended up becoming super fans of the show. And here we are.
Give me one Survivor winner and one non-winner who you identify with the most.
Yeah, actually, the two people, Survivor players that I identify with the most, one is a winner and one is a non-winner. The winner is Denise, and I identify her with, the most because of how she's able to stay calm and build trust and, deep trusted relationships, and that got her to the end. And then the other not Survivor player that was a non-winner, Suri, just with how she just plays an excellent social game and build strong relationships. Like she's playing and it doesn't even seem like she's playing, but she is. So I do resonate very strongly with those two and look forward to combining both qualities in my game.
What's your favorite moment in Survivor history?
I mean, I don't know. I think they're very close. Even up until the last season, season 41, just watching that, seconds apart fire challenge between Heather and Deshaun. That had all of us just standing and like screaming at the TV until it happened. So it's just, there are so many moments like that, but those ones that just like get your adrenaline flowing and you can't you want to be in there, and live it out. So I don't know. I have a ton of favorite moments, but I think that would be one of the more recent ones.
Mailbag. Fox. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. First off, was not expecting a Deshaun versus Heather at the Final Four. But Mike, to my knowledge, is that the first time we've heard anybody cite Final Four fire making as their favorite Survivor moment?
I'm trying to remember to look back. Maybe I'll do a quick control F on our 41 and 42 interviews. Like maybe they mention I don't know, the first one between, Ben and Devin, or maybe the emotionality of Sarah versus Tony. But yeah, I mean, this is like music to Jeff Probst's ears, right? Of like, okay, as long as if there's one person
it's working.
If 99 people in the room don't like your fire making challenge, but one person does, that means you want to keep doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that you want to say about this?
No, I mean, we should talk about maybe the Survivor players she associates with. She talks about Suri in her bio as well. Denise, I think, is going to be a really interesting comparison, in particular when it comes to the things she mentioned about Denise. Because to spoil a bit about later on in the interview, Nneka is not big on lying. She says in her 1-minute video she is actually a bad liar,
Okay.
and she's not very good at cheating. And I think what she was able to pull from Denise's game, right? This idea of she was able to build these trusted relationships. She was able to stay calm under pressure. It's interesting that she was pulling those facets of those game, but then also like really loving Suri so much when Suri, listen, has a killer smile and a giggle, but like did some of the most ruthless stuff in the game's history.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, you could pick which things you like. Maybe she likes her giggle.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, Nneka likes to laugh as well.
Yeah.
And she says, I think she says in her 1 minute video, like a smile, her smile is a large part of who she is. So yeah, she might just see, the pearly whites on Serena.
Like, oh,
and be like,
she's
"That's my
fun."
player.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Mike, Suri was a member of the Heroes tribe.
Right, true. I think maybe she looked at the phrase gangster in an Oprah suit and she just listened to the word Oprah suit and was like, okay, that's my player. Forget about the gangster stuff. What's one life experience you feel has prepared you most for the game?
I would say life experience because I think my whole life experience more like life values. Experience wise, I have a pretty interesting background, born and raised in Nigeria and then moved to the States, with 2 toddlers. I'm pregnant for the third one, with my husband then. And it's been an accumulation of experiences, but I would think that the values that have kept me going, which is just, very high sense of resilience, never settling for less than excellent, and also understanding the value of community and relationships. I think those will take me far in this game. And then, even though the game is one where, people very easily resort to, lying and cheating and backstabbing, but, I see myself challenging how that is played and going with the opposite of that, and we'll see how that works out.
What excites you? Yeah, so listen, cue the red flag emojis. Let's talk about this. As I just mentioned, Nneka says, even though the game is one where people very easily resort to lying and cheating and backstabbing, I see myself challenging how that is played and going with the opposite of that. I'm here to say that is not a death sentence. Like, I don't know if that will necessarily make her a de facto first one out automatically. I do not know, though, if that is necessarily something that could get her the win.
It would be a new way to play the game, for sure.
Yeah, and it's but it's almost like setting limits for yourself, right? Like purposely handcuffing yourself and being like, "Oh, well, I was able to succeed in spite of this." Like, why? And I will also say that, like, I don't think like lying, cheating, and backstabbing is like, well, the best liars always end up winning the game. That certainly is not the case. We have certainly seen people play very duplicitous games and win, but the vast majority of the time, it's someone who like did lie, but I think for the most part came across as very authentic. The key part of that sentence being they did lie. And so I just don't know if Nneka having this idea coming in of like, I don't want to do this, if that's the correct headspace to have.
Right. And just because that she's saying this in her preseason interview does not mean that this is how she is automatically going to play the game when push comes to shove. Like, you might get out there and be like, oh, okay, well, I do need to omit this information.
Well, I think especially like if she finds herself in an interesting position in this small tribe, right? She is the oldest woman in the season, is the oldest person on the tribe. If she finds herself a bit of a social outcast early on, maybe she finds that she has to be a little more tricky, a little bit more devious to be able to make her way through that first vote. Because otherwise, look, honesty is good to have in an ally. And so I could see a universe where like people look at her as, maybe to that Jesse point, someone who is reliable and stable. At the same time, if, for example, someone like can't trust you with a secret,
right,
or you're able to like, or you leak a plan to somebody else because you can't lie to them that it's not them, that's when you become a bit more of a liability than an asset.
Yeah, and somebody else that was like this in the new era was Jeannie. And Shan ultimately like felt like, okay, Ricard is a snake, but Jeannie, I don't trust that she's not going to give away all the information.
Right. Do I want a snake or do I want a pet rock? Like, yes, the snake could bite me, but like the snake is something good to have on my side at the end of the day.
Okay. Back to Nneka.
What excites you the most about the new era of Survivor?
What excites me the most will be, just how one is it's continued to evolve. The show has not become redundant at all. And I think that's cool. That makes you stay glued and interested, especially in this era where people have attention spans of a gnat, So the fact that Survivor has continued to evolve and kind of like continue to reinvent itself is awesome. And because it's a social game that we're actually taking what's going on socially or in the culture and reflecting it in the game and opening up discourse for that, I think that's important. And glad that that's become a part of the game. And then, how it's also tried to, especially the last couple of seasons, involve younger players, like the game within the game,
Wow.
all of that. Because those are fans that are being groomed, for the future. It kind of makes me think of how my 7-year-old niece is already a fan of Survivor and dreams of being on Survivor when she grows up. So it's exciting.
What do you think people will perceive you as?
I think the initial perception will be, because I smile a lot, like, hey, she's all fun and games, without understanding that behind the smile and laughter, there's a lot of observing and learning, and I stay very curious, behind that. So I think it will be just the initial, hey, she's all fun and games. And then, knowing that most one of the older players this season, kind of underestimating how strong I might be and how I might show up in challenges. So we'll see how that plays out.
What type of player are you looking for in an alliance?
I would say members, because you always need more than one.
That's a good point.
I'm
Very valid.
I'll be looking for, because I'm one who builds trust, to build deep relationships. And, I see the relationships built on Survivor going past, beyond the game, So yes, I'll be looking to build some deep trusted relationships with personal persons that, while I understand the game is dynamic and people change, there will be a stronger foundation that will be able to take us to the end.
Okay. So, yeah, that's interesting because Nneke says, like, okay, well, people are going to see me and see my smile and they're going to think I'm all fun and games, but why? I don't know what's going to happen after that.
Well, because she follows it up, right, by being like, but I'm just observing and learning. And it's like,
yeah,
great. What are you going to do with that information?
Yeah. So I guess then just talk about it with people.
And again, and I'm not saying that, she's not going to be dead in the water. I don't think she'll be a pain in the necka, if you will, to anybody that early on. But to your point about Jeannie, right? Like, if Ua doesn't lose that last immunity challenge, like Jeannie ends up making it to the merge, it's not like she becomes an automatic first boot, especially in these smaller tribes. It might be more so the people that are like sticking their necks out and being maybe a bit too dicey, a bit too duplicitous. But for Nneke, I'm just not seeing maybe like the necessary duplicity that it takes to win the game. Now, again, she could completely come in and like end up either purposely or accidentally like cutting throats and betraying people just because she realizes that's what the nature of the game is. But at least with the mindset that she's coming into the game with, I don't know if she is like as up to bat for the pitches that are being thrown her way as the 4 people we talked about before her.
Yeah, Nneke is an interesting one here. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes, and exactly. She said that she's going to be able to hold her own in the challenges and see if that's something that she's able to bring to the table. But yeah, I feel like I don't have a lot to really, that gives me a lot of faith that Nneke is somebody who's going to be a winner of the season.
I think she will be a bit of a workhorse at camp. The 3 words to describe herself from her bio: joyful, hardworking, trustworthy. Her 2 pet peeves: mediocrity and laziness. So maybe if there's somebody that can endear her to the other people on Vessi, it might be like she is someone who is constantly working her butt off at camp. And so they feel like, especially again, when camp life is so necessary in the early stages, that they're like, yeah, we could keep her around. Plus, she's a little toothless, and that we know that she's going to be honest and upfront to us, that she's not the big threat we need to take care of right here, right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe she's somebody who is sort of like somebody who's like more of like a leader of the tribe, where we're talking about like these people are they're like going in their own like different directions. Like maybe she could be the person that keeps this group like Vessi strong, and then ultimately like that could be like what her superpower is in the game.
Do you expect her and Jesse to be like the mom and pop of the tribe, because I also could see them bonding as well. They're the only two parents on the tribe. Jesse, again, is looking for that stability. Nneka is perhaps like begrudgingly stable to her detriment. And so I think this could be a possible person he would want to have on his side.
Well, it's interesting because Jesse, you said Jesse's 30, right? But Cody's 35.
Yeah.
So, but he fits in more. He's like at the kids' table more than he's like the grown up.
Yeah, he's more so like the Disney Channel kid or like the Melrose Place, right? Like the 35 playing 30, essentially.
Yeah. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Nneka and Cody ultimately, that you feel like that there are some things that they probably are like simpatico about, but who knows? Is he going to be like, is he a hard worker around the camp? I feel like that's a interesting question.
Right, because we know that like Brad and Jeannie really bonded over being, hard workers, put your nose down, and just kind of push your way forward. And actually, that was a very similar relationship, right? Where like Brad was a little more chaotic and he was running around and sneaking off into the bushes to spy on people, whereas Jeannie was a bit more of like a stable force. Could be a very similar dynamic with Cody and Nneka, or it could be more so of like a, oil and water. Yeah, these two were working towards like the same cause. Like I mentioned before, Cody came from this environment of like handshake, loyalty, you're a man of your word, which Nneka is sort of like putting forward as how she wants to play the game. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't translate when it comes to being in the game of Survivor together.
Okay. Mike, what else did you get from Nneka's bio?
I'm looking right here. Who is her hero and why? My dad, he has accomplished so much. He overcame so many obstacles from childhood through his adult years and not only thrived, but brought so many others along with him to ensure he ended the cycle of poverty that would have plagued the extended family otherwise. And Justine mentions the cycle of poverty herself in what happened in Micronesia.
Okay. Then, any fun pet peeves from Nneka?
No, the only two were mediocrity and laziness. I do like mediocrity as a pet peeve.
Yeah.
It's mid. I hate it.
Mediocrity is mid?
Isn't it quite literally like what mid means? Is mediocre?
Yeah.